If you're focused on always fixing your spouse, or you're waiting to be saved, then you're already lost. On this episode, we're going to walk you through a few things that worked for us.
Ownership.
Own your shit? Ownership.
Let's do this.
Own your shit.
We talk about being a powerful person today and how you create change in your world that could potentially lead to other people wanting to create change in their world. Specifically talking about your spouse or, being powerfully coupled with your spouse. I think what we see often really is when we're working with couples, something that is very common. And I think initially well-meaning is that usually there's a person that is aware and hungry for change, like aware of that change could be made. They're beginning to be hungry for it, but then simultaneously they're looking at their spouse like, but my spouse doesn't want it or isn't aware of it or this or that.
They scapegoating.
And so the question really is, well, are you responsible for your partner? Like, are you responsible for the choices that they make? Are you responsible for the change that they create? Are you responsible for their growth or lack thereof, really?
Yeah.
And if not, then what are you responsible for?
Yeah, that's setting yourself up for big disappointment because you're trying to control things you can't control. So.
You mean people can't control people?
And you're setting expectations that maybe other people don't want.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there are some cases where people can control people, right? Typically, those are not healthy relationships.
Yeah.
So what do you want here? Do you want growth? Do you want the things that you want for yourself and for your family? Or would you prefer an unhealthy, controlled relationship?
Right.
Because you have to let go and embrace one or the other. It is very difficult to set goals for yourself. And I don't know if it's a form of hypocrisy or what it is, but I feel like the most immediate flip is for the individual to then look at the spouse and list them as all the reasons why they can't. Specifically, like we're talking about health and fitness. That is one of business too.
Yeah.
They're both one and the same. See it all the time where people set health goals and then that tends to pop up right away within the first couple of days of coaching someone that is married, that has chosen to go on the journey for themselves.
Yeah.
But then is mad because the spouse is bringing the burger into the house. And we have to remind them, hey, we know you have long-term plans and goals of helping your family get healthy, but right now you're the one that made the call to us.
Right. No, it's like it's scapegoating and saying, well, I can't do this because, it's pointing the finger. I can't do this until, then you're pointing at something that's out of your control. So it's like easy. It's like an easy get out of jail free on why you're not moving forward. And you just said your health goal, for instance, whereas opposed to why don't you just stay in your lane, control what you can control and be the light.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Be the light. A rising tide raises all the ships. So you can be that tide that raises all the ships in your home. That's so much easier too, because literally you can control that.
Yes. If you just release the person because we know that you care, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you care about your partner. That's awesome and great.
Mm-hmm.
But people quickly mask the caring as expectations, stealth expectations.
Yeah. Don't put your goals on somebody else's goals.
Right. If they wanted to do
their
with
goals,
you.
Yeah.
And sometimes in some cases they do say they want to do this with you, build a business or become healthy or whatever it might be. A lot of times, hey, they're like, yeah, I love the idea of that.
Then when you see the couples enabling each other though.
Oh,
we
yeah.
see that a lot too. They're like,
yeah, one has the bad day, so the other one brings them chocolate because they know typically the
And
chocolate makes them happy for a moment.
Over the chocolate of the bad day.
Yeah.
And just
When
dragging
really
each other down.
a hug and some presents probably would do the same as the chocolate.
Well, yeah, probably a hug and then you still staying on course would be more motivating to me.
Yep.
Because I think about us in general too. You know, we're not, immune to nutritional
Coping.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not so much into that unless I like miss some meals. Like if I'm really grinding. It's because you're
so much more logical and I'm so much more emotional. People who lead with emotion, which is 75% of people out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a statistic I always can remember because I'm like, well, you don't actually want to be like everybody else.
No, but my point of that is like when, like with alcohol, like whenever we go on our thing, well, lately we don't drink at all. Actually, because
if you're watching
5
YouTube.
months, yeah, because Sam's, so she doesn't drink anymore because she's pregnant. So I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just seeing you not have a drink in your hand. I'm like, I really don't want to drink by myself because it's more of a social thing for me. So I'm like, I don't want to drink.
Yeah.
So the point of that, to tie it back in, is like when you're staying in your lane and you're focusing on you, that's the best thing you can do for someone else. So, I mean, I'm using Sam, she's pregnant. So, but to tie that analogy in, her not drinking, for an example, holds me more accountable because I'm like, the urge isn't there. Like, I don't know if that made sense actually.
Oh, I mean, it totally makes sense, and honestly, so some might say, oh, well, that's easy. You're pregnant. It's easy to not drink when you're making a baby in your belly,
Yeah.
But also when you are so dead set on a goal that like you need it, like you need air.
Yeah.
You like are dead set that you deserve to be healthy, that you want to be healthy. You want to create this lifestyle change, that you need it like you need air. It is like, I actually was talking to one of my clients. I was like, you have a baby in your belly. Your goal is the equivalent of a baby in your belly right now. And it's waiting to be born. And it all is residing upon how much determination and willpower and how much you decide it matters. Whatever that goal is for scaling your health, scaling your business, it does not matter what your partner is willing to put forth or do right now. It only matters what you are willing to do.
Yeah, so I think the message there is staying in your lane and focusing on what you can control, which is you. And your caring and your concern for your spouse, that's the best thing you can do. Like you'll actually help them by you rising and succeeding.
Totally. And you can't do this begrudgingly. That's the other thing.
No.
You can't then go be like, okay, I'm going to be responsible and own my goals.
And you can't belittle them and all that. They'll feed off of your positive energy. They'll feed off of you succeeding. Or maybe they won't. It doesn't matter.
Who cares?
I
mean, you got to care, but ultimately at the end of the day, this is going to require releasing your agenda of wanting your spouse to be different. And that means you have to release your timeline. Usually what we see is that people choose to be with the right people. And so a lot of times there's a ripple effect there. And typically we can't tell you what, the timeline is going to be, right? Like we have no idea. Could be days, could be weeks, could be months, could be years. Ultimately, if you're really in it for the right reasons, then you let go of that agenda. Well,
it's positive habits done consistently can become contagious. Like when you live in a household and someone has a positive habits of health, whether it's morning routines, whether it's the way they eat, whether it's the exercise, and they're consistent with those things, like you being the light, so to speak, it can be contagious.
Yeah. And then you're happy about the choices you're making. You're like, okay,
yeah, and then you feel good about it.
I'm taking full ownership here.
Yeah.
And I've released my spouse of feeling like he or she needs to be along in this for me to succeed.
Yeah.
And I'm releasing expectations of them coming along at any certain point. I hope they do. But regardless, okay, now I'm actually enjoying this for me. Now I'm really proud of me. It's truly owning your power, because let's think about it. If you really needed your spouse in order to be successful at reaching your goals, be it health or business, how great is that going to feel when you reach them?
Yeah.
Not knowing, like, could I have done this on my own? Would I have done this for me? So to really do this from a place of this is good enough and this is important for me to do for me. And if and when they come along, that will also be great.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we've been mentoring people for a decade now. And that's what we hear a lot is, well, if my spouse would just come along, whether it's in the health side or it's growing a business, it's all only if they would be more supportive. Well, sure, that might help things move forward. But we've also seen people succeed and things turn out really well when they just focused on them and what they can control. We've had podcasts about sometimes, you might have created that doubt by your history of not following through with things, whether it's the diet or the business opportunity or whatever, or the course you bought and you didn't fulfill it. I mean, you have to own that. Maybe you have a history of not following through with things. So it's like I told my daughter, it's like the boy who cried wolf. And she's like, well, I've been telling the truth lately, or I've been whatever. I'm like, yeah, but you've created that skepticism. So now you need to own it till you earn the trust back. You need to own that. So on the flip side to my point is you may have a history of not following through on things in some situations. Yeah. So you need to just, but this I've been doing good for a week or a month or a year. Well, maybe it's going to take 2-3 years or you to actually produce something with it.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
That's
I think that's just fair.
For sure. Yeah. And sometimes, maybe the spouse is really resistant just because it feels different and they're uncertain and they don't like different. And I've always, told my couples when it's just like one person that's coming to me with this kind of like, oh, but it's so hard. I want to get on. I want to do personal development, or I want to do these trainings, or I want to eat healthy. But he or she is like got their arms crossed and, walking around like they're angry if I'm not watching our TV show together, or if I'm not eating the hamburger with them, I'm like, that really does exist, but sometimes they just need to see you standing in and being firm and saying, hey, look, I'm going to do this without you, against you, but ultimately for us, and because a lot of times they just don't even realize that they may be putting up an obstacle. That's when ownership again.
And communication.
I
don't think we assume too much. We don't communicate clear as kind, like you always say. And that's something that we've gotten better with year after year. And we continue to get better at, like, well, slow to roll. Like, for instance, we've been together 23 years. We're obviously, and we've been through a lot of bullshit. It's like you come to the realization, obviously, like, we're in this together. Obviously, we're on the same team. So it's like you got to get through that stuff and say, let's slow down all the noise. Let's communicate why this is important, whether it's the nutrition that I want to get on and change my life, or whether it's the business I want to create. How is this working for us? People don't want to have these conversations.
Yep.
Like you just want to, it's just your partner in life, and you don't want to take the time to be clear with them on.
Just react and throw in the towel on something, or react and go in the bedroom and cry over it, or and play the victim.
No, how about grab their hands, sit them down, and look them in the eye. And I used to have to coach people through this. It's like, go sit in their lap. That'll get his attention. Look him in the eye and say, honey, I know I've blown a lot of money and wasted a lot of money. But let me tell you how this is going to be different this time. I've had to walk women through these conversations because obviously I know it'll get a man's attention. And I guarantee you've been married a long time and y'all are stuck in y'all's little rut and routines, and you go sit in his lap and you look him in his eyes, he'll get his attention. Like, whoa, what's going on? And then you got to bring him back to what we're doing here.
Like, do I know this trick? Well, so I am going to pull that one out.
That's why I go and sit in your lap all the time.
Is that really why? Dang it.
But no, all laughing aside. I mean, I'm like, seriously, there might be people laughing at that. I'm telling you, you get their attention.
Connection.
That is getting their attention. That's part of connection. And then you can deliver your message. But if you're not sincere about it, then don't even go through all that. Because then I'm telling you, you're really going to burn the bridge, because then I'm out of tactics for you.
Well, actually what you said is, I feel like it's so brilliant, because if anyone's read the 5 love languages, it's like not all guys, but most guys, their love language is not always going to be words. A lot of women, like, it's going to be the words, the talking, you know. A lot of guys, it's going to be physical touch, quality time, something like that. So presence. And we're talking about women right now, but you know, if it were a guy, it would be the reverse. Like, hey, use your words.
Yeah.
You know, tell them you love them. Make sure they know that they're important to you, you know. But for a lot of guys, it's gonna be like that physical touch and presence, and like just quick and to the point.
And
Like,
and sometimes it's looking at it through their eyes too. So if you're starting to, you know, if it's the nutrition side, I want to keep bouncing back and forth, but if it's the nutrition side of it, they're like, oh, that's the things we used to connect on, was the greasy appetizers and the 6 drinks.
Yep.
That's the things we used to connect with when we would, you know what I'm saying? So they see it as a cog in the wheel. They see it as a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
As opposed to.
When we do these things, we have fun together though. So how are we going to have fun if this doesn't exist?
So you have to realize that and understand that that's probably part of the process. They see it as a nuisance or a threat. And the same with the business. It's like, oh crap, well, this is going to eat up 3-4 hours of your time with me or the family time, or whatever, possibly. So you got to reassure them that this is actually the plan is for it to create more time and freedom.
Hold up. But you said another brilliant thing. I hope people are really like hearing that. Because if you flip it and you really listen to that again, like go back 15 seconds, whatever, listen to it again. Because what you're saying is, ultimately, it isn't that they don't want you to be healthy or they don't want you to build a thriving business, but the way they are seeing it is that it is a threat to their connection to you, and that how they love to spend time with you. So they're afraid that it's going to take you away because they love you.
And most people's dreamers broke. So their dreamer might not be working as good as yours. So they can't conceptualize what you're, that amount of effort and energy and money and investment you want to put into it. They can't conceptualize the outcome. Because most people's dreamers are broke. Yeah. And it's just the reality of it. So it's your responsibility to, like I said, get their attention, make the connection, and deliver on how this benefits the whole team. Yep. And they don't buy into that, then, I don't know. So
yeah, that's a whole different topic.
That's a whole nother topic. And
you grow together, you grow apart.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Well, I think that's kind of ties it up in a pretty little bow, like ownership and just how that one little thing of owning yourself, fully accepting your personal goals.
Because you can control that.
And not building in a scapegoat or an escape plan based off of the individual you live with and you partner with, but truly just owning that.
Oh, but you don't understand, Sam. It's so hard when they're eating the bad food and, they're not. It's like, stop being a victim for once in your life. No, it's not that hard. Be a victor. And watch what happens. Yeah. It becomes contagious in your entire house. Yep. Especially if you have kids.
Yep. Peace. Remember, friends, you deserve to live the life that you desire. So go out and create your new American dream. And don't forget to stay connected with us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.